Evening, everyone. See, today's session, we are going to discuss the IPM paper, IPM 19 paper, and I believe you must have solved this paper beforehand. The paper's intention to what we're going to discuss in this 1 hour is learning three things. One is the paper has a set of questions that are going to be moderate to easy. And then there are some difficult questions. The paper has a gamut of questions ranging from reading comprehension to vocabulary questions in the format of fill in the blank, grammar questions, and also some questions of logic in the format of para completion. So we are going to design how to handle each type of question. We're going to learn how to eliminate closed choices, plus realizing how the paper is going to take us across different variety of questions and to become absolutely comfortable handling variety of questions under the time limit. That's another thing that we are going to see through this paper. Now, I'm immediately starting with my first question, and that's going to be, if you look at this, I'm going to read the question first, and then we'll take up options. Now, first and foremost, when we read question number our first question, I'll just bring the question also on the board. So when a dozen men are cast away on an imaginary island, the best educated would look for metal in rocks because. So what type of question is this? Now, if you look at this question answer would be lying in the paragraph, because if you can see, it's practically seeming like a very direct kind of a question, a specific detailed question where you can find the answer lying in the details of the paragraph. So when we look at the first question, and before even we start discussing the first question, let's have a little bit of gist or the central idea of the paragraph. The paragraph begins by taking a supposition that if half a dozen men, they were cast away. I'll just open the paragraph so that if half a dozen men were cast ashore from a wreck. So just 1 minute, I'll be. So he's clearly, I'm underlining a part here in the introduction. Supposing a dozen men were cast ashore from a wreck on an inhabited island and left to their own resources. According to one of the course, according to his capacity would be set to one business. Now, the gist says that they would be and left to their own resources, one of the course, according to his capacity, would be set to one business and one to another. The strongest to dig, to cut wood, and to that means you will give work according to the capacity that each one possesses. Clear? The best educated to look for iron or lead in the rocks and to plan the channels for the irrigation of the fields. But now understand further what he introduces, that supposing these men were cast ashore, then they would be given work according to their capacity. And further he goes on in the middle part, he says, so that any appearance of secrecy. Now here he introduces another element to the paragraph by saying that the difficulties which each lay under properly explained to the rest, so that any appearance of secrecy or separateness in the action of any of them would instantly and justly be looked upon. Look at it, how we are linking the thought. First, he talks about how work would be assigned. Then he talks about with the result so that any appearance of secrecy would be instantly justifiably looked upon with suspicion. It would be looked upon with suspicion. Then he gives you an example with an instance. See how we are structuring the paragraph. Introduction, thought addition, exemplification. Further, the author adds on further by giving an example of the scientific men. Here he gives their example, and further in the end, towards the middle part, he brings out this conclusion. Again, another example of the shoemaker is given. If you have read the paragraph, you would have read, if the shoemaker refused to show them where the bark grew, which he made the sandals of, would naturally think that in all probability, rightly think that he didn't want them to see how much there was of it, and that he meant to ask them more corn and potatoes in exchange. Can you see what he's talking about? He's expanding on the secrecy. And then in the next paragraph, next almost here, look at the further he adds on by giving you the conclusion of this example. He clearly says here, please look at this part. Any secrecy on his part would be immediately supposed to mean mischief and would require to be accounted for or put an end to. And this all the more because whatever the work might be, certainly there would be difficulties about it. Clearly links again, gives the example of secrecy and tells what is it going to mean. Supposedly means mischief or it required to be accounted for. And why I'm doing this, so that then when we'll be discussing the answers, we would know how to go about and look at them. So clearly by saying here, more or less done away with. Can we hear once they were well explained, they might be more or less done away with. Further now, let's look at the question now. We structure the paragraph, what he introduces, how he adds on his thought, and here's the question. When a dozen men are cast away on an imaginary, the best educated will look for metal in rocks because that job has, now you know why. So can you see here? He never said to make weapons. An outside factor, these are some eliminations. In some of the questions, they will use the tool of insertion. So can you see a new idea, make weapons was inserted. Another element that is not mentioned only was the unexploited resources. That's not mentioned. Another, he may find it beneath him to dig or cut. So here, can you see here? Basically giving a blame on somebody, providing some kind of judgmental opinion, which the author never discussed it. This was out of the box. This is an insertion, and here, which one is absolutely suited for? Answer becomes D, Delhi. Next question, I'm taking the next question. Just 1 minute, I don't know. Okay. The author states, now can you see the question? The author states that any appearance of secrecy or separateness would instantly and justifiably be looked upon with suspicion. From this statement, we make an info. We know what has he stated. All of us know what has he stated. He's clearly stating in one of the lines that it will be immediately looked as suspicion, clearly stating that. So we know what the author, if the shoemaker refused to show them the bark where they, which would make sandals, they would naturally think that in all probability, rightly think that he didn't want to see. Although each man would have a proportion of time to himself, which he was allowed to do when he chose without let or inquiry, as long as he was making. Now, look at A part. What is secret is not what is separate. That is what we can't understand from here. So clearly saying secrecy is not exactly the same as separate. He's not talking about, look at the question, appearance of secrecy or separateness would instantly and justifiably be looked at. So clearly his author said it's natural, it would be looked as suspicion of secrecy. Answer C. It only takes an instant for relationship to deteriorate. He never talked about any relationship deteriorating because of secrecy. He did give an example of the shoemaker, but never talked about it takes an instant. See, look at this new factor, which is not suggested anywhere in the paragraph. So answer becomes C, Calcutta. Next question. Question number, the instance of the shoemaker, you know where this example came, who refuses to show his source and asks for more corn and potatoes, example of. See, it was not I like to read the conclusion from the paragraph of one so that all of us are really linked here. If the shoemaker refused to show them where the bragyu, which he had made the sandals of, they would naturally think that in all probability, that he didn't want to see how much there was of it, and he meant to ask from them more, more corn. So can you see, it was never meant to ask, not a strong bargain, absolutely distortion. It was not at all a strong bargain. And it was also not a system of barter, because if it was Both of them can be easily eliminated. And see, intend to make trouble nahi, because he never talked about that whether it would lead to trouble or some kind. It was an unfair practice because his intention would to be asked more. So answer to this will be B, Bombay. Unfair practice. It would be an unfair practice. He meant to ask more corn and potatoes. Then question next. According to the author, now this answer is usually, this kind of questions, answers are usually lying in a specific, this is again a specific detail. If you look at the paragraph now, if there were 2 to 3 questions that were specific detailed question, one question which is practically the author based question, and one question that's asking you to infer from the paragraph. According to the author, whatever one works might be, whatever one's work might be, the difficulties are always going to be a part of it. I'm going to take you back immediately to the paragraph so that you can see which line talks about it. See here, just you can see here. He's clearly talking about last 3 lines. He talks about that it is going to be all the more because whatever the work might be, certainly there would be difficulties about it, which once they were well explained might be more or less done away with. See, look, that's what we concluded from the paragraph. Here they are. Keeping this line in mind, can we look at the options? The first option says, one cannot keep complaining. There was nothing on the complain element. One should expect others to assure of help and advance our labors. Never talked about any advancement of labor. He said it would be accounted for, would require to be accounted for, or put an end to. And this all the more, whatever the word might be, would lead to difficulties. Can you see how nicely we can look at which word justifies the word difficulties? And there's one in the A choice which says hardships are going to be part of it. One should offer help. That's just a look at this 4th choice. Now, this is again a trap that they have set for you, which is saying one must offer help to others. This is a suggestion which is absolutely not required. He never makes any kind of, and one should expect others to assure of help. This is out of the box. And complaint was not even a part of the paragraph. Difficulties and hardship, answers A. This was a very easy to moderate question, absolutely asking you to go by the conclusion of the shoemaker example. Let's go further. Now, question number 5. The author's belief is that the progress to happen. Now, clearly here he says here, if the progress has to happen, he only said work has to be assigned as per the talent one possesses, one's own capability, but never see the distortion where he talks about multiple tasks, what you're very good at. If you're very good at one aspect, then you're given the job as per your capability, not that you need to have multiple talent. So that's wrong there. It's absolutely wrong, distort here. Then also talks about cooperation among team members is essential. This part, cooperation, can be very tempting. But then clearly, cooperation among team members, look at it. The author's belief is that for progress to happen, transparency among all concerned, not cooperation. There should be, now see, what was the word that there should be no secrecy. So transparency among all concerned is mandatory, not cooperation. You cannot keep things hiding, which the example of the shoemaker, if he doesn't show them how much, from which bark he made that, and probably would have the intent to ask more, explain that he needs to be more transparent in his operation. So transparency, not cooperation. Because here, team among all, absolutely right, but word not cooperation, word having transparency. Okay. Now, question 5 was an understanding question, and question your info question was an understanding. Rest all were directly mentioned. I move on to my second paragraph. Okay, there is one more. I'm so sorry. The writer makes a hypothesis which can be related to. Now, he makes an hypothesis which is clearly talking about is he talking about rich with resources? He never says an imaginary island. He never talked about He said capabilities not rich with resources. An ideal world of talented people, he never says this is an ideal world. As not talented people, people who had one kind of talent, best at that, not talented people. This is absolutely a different meaning. And an unsophisticated world is off the mark, absolutely not. Communities in general. He talks about communities in general. Okay, so this leads us to the second paragraph. Now, again, let's look at the second paragraph quickly. The second paragraph, I'm going to give you the first week looking at the highlights of the paragraph. The highlights of the paragraph are that there is a perennial debate about gender differences, and it threatens to remain. See, I'm reading it here. There is a perennial debate over gender differences, and it threatens to remain inconclusive. Now, he clearly says stereotypes pertaining to male superiority, stereotypes pertaining to male superiority and female submissiveness could be traced to earlier ages. So that means he's clearly saying it's a perennial debate and it remains inconclusive, and there are stereotypes of male superiority. But can we today see a swing? Can you see he raises a question? Today see a swing away from these stereotypes. So can we see that he raises a question? In this gendered world, we continue to live with notions that one's gender determines one's skills and preferences. And he exemplifies that by saying that girls are given Barbie dolls while boy childs will get a Lego set. Does that mean, now he raises another question, does that mean that our brains are different? That boys and girls, he's clearly saying one gender determines one's skills and preferences. So is it possible that our brains are also, so he clearly calls this as a myth. This myth has been exploded, and he names a professor, which is cognitive neuroimaging. Her research attempts to establish how these stereotypes mold our cells of how are these stereotypes clearly he says mold over ideas of ourselves. She examines how science has been misinterpreted. First idea she examines, or misused to ask. So can you see here? First line threatens to remain inconclusive, then stereotypes from ages. Then he says we continue to live with notions. One gender determines one skill, but then he raises a question that do our brains work differently? And then he says science has been. There's a professor who's done a study on cognitive neuroimaging, and she says that science has been misinterpreted or misused. See, now our thought is going to go ahead. She urges us, look at it, look at the tone here. She urges us to move beyond a binary view of people's brains and instead to see them as highly individualized. We don't have to divide men and women or boy and girl, clearly saying they have to be seen as highly individualized. Further in the end, so clearly this research goes on into bringing out this point. No brain differences can be found. It's only gender related. That's the truth. In other words, modern neurosciences have identified no decisive category defining differences. Then the result, as a result of these findings, we owe it ourselves to, here is it, to dump the myths and look at ourselves afresh. So can you see the tone? First the urge, and then from those findings that they are not different. So they say dump the myth and look afresh. Look afresh. Okay, then last line, it can also condemn boys for being emotional, as this is seen as a feminine trait, and most dangerous of all, to proclaim that boys, not girls, are meant to lead. So clearly talking about how the stereotypes have been inconclusive. Next question. The research of a British professor of cognitive neuroimaging. Now we know we've read it, we've worked out the conclusions. So we've read and worked out the conclusions of the neuroimaging done by the British professor. Can you see the first one being absolute? The brains of men and women are alike. That's not what the research was trying to say. The research said that brains do not work differently for boys and girls. They do not work. They are not linked to gender. They are not. Men are alike. Yes, this can be very much an answer, but this does not talk about the the gender part. The potential of a human brain is not directly linked to gender. That's what the research was trying to break the stereotype of men and women. It never, because we need to dump that myth. So here, this is almost saying a very different thing. It says the potential of a human brain is not directly linked to gender. Science needs to challenge the status quo. That is not what the professor has succeeded. And society must break away. This professor never talked about it. She did say dump the myths, but not society. She never given advice to the society. So answer becomes D. Delhi. Question number 8. By referring to the word as gendered, if you could remember, the paragraph said we are living in a gendered world. The writer wants to convey. So now if you can see here, gender differences can be detected right from the childhood. Okay. The writer wants to convey not that they are existing from what stage are they. So it clearly wants to establish that society is still working on the stereotypical model and the gender division remains, the gender differences threaten to remain inconclusive. So look at the first line of the paragraph and you'll gradually get to know what he's trying to say. Not from the childhood, this is not what he's saying. The debate on will never be. Can you see the extreme answer? This is extreme. Childhood was not the issue here. Once gender is bound to determine one ability, now this is absolutely wrong. This she would never agree with. Society continues to be fixated on gender stereotypes. Inconclusive. So answer becomes B, Bombay. Move on to the next question. Question 9. One of the dangers in adopting a binary view. See, whenever you look at the clue in the question itself, it's talking about the binary view. Binary view means having two views, by the road, which talks about two views. Now, if you can see here, it has to have both the views. The binary view of the human brain is that it can. So now, if you can see here, promote the notion of feminine and masculine. Yes, it has two, the binary view. Determine as well as limit academic. He never talked about academic choices. This is insert in the paragraph, not mentioned. Lead to the distortion and misinterpretation of scientific, that is talking about how science has been misused, the study, but not, it is one view, but not a binary view. So exactly this line is true as per the paragraph, but it does not address the question of the binary view. So C can also be eliminated, though the line is true, yet it is not true as per the question asked. He used to encourage male dominance and superiority. Again, no binary view in this. So this is no binary view. This is no binary view. This is an insertion. Promote the notion of feminine and masculine traits, the binary view in the human brain. Okay, so let's go further. The 10th question. The writer of this passage wants to emphasize the need to. So if you can see here, I'm going to look at B option first and see how beautifully a trap has been set for us. Continuously debate issues of gender differences in human progress, achieve human progress. This is not there, not there. Similarly, if you can see, because continuously debate, because inconclusive, that leads here. Question the findings of a scientific inquiry into the functioning of the human brain. Functioning of the human brain, not functioning of the human brain, but here he talks about the gender differences. Is there any gender difference in the working of the human brain? Not in general functioning of the human brain. So here also, this becomes a little, it distorts the meaning of the original line where he said we need to look at the functioning of the human brain as per gender differences. Accept gender differences as an essential to the survival of the human species. Did he ever talk about such a strong tone? Was there survival? Are we surviving because of the gender? That is not what we learned. Use new insights provided by scientific research for a better understanding of human abilities. That's what the passage tries to. That means dump, she urges, dump the myth. And here's A. Dump the myth. Okay. Now the next two questions are going to be vocabulary question. Para 1, he says, I'll just clear. The answer is not it. Para 1 clearly says what is stranglehold. See, stranglehold means basically you're trying to stifle some kind of stifling is basically you're trying to control, restrain. Now, asphyxiation is where you have less of oxygen and you cannot breathe, but it's not literally meaning that somebody cannot breathe or somebody's choked. So might not. Containment is restriction. So can you see here, are we trying to and I'll read the line from where this word has been selected. So can we see here, but we can today see a swing away from these stereotypes, swing away, or have they established a stranglehold on our perception? That means have they, even our perceptions, are they controlled? Or it's not saying lack of oxygen. Containment is restriction. So have they even stifled us by this? Prohibiting entry was not discussed. So overwhelming control is it if our perception is also overwhelmingly controlled. So we have made this perception that, boys should not be crying or girls should be playing with the Barbie dolls. So this is stranglehold, extreme control over the perception of the gender differences. That's what is highlighted through the word stranglehold. Then unbounded is not bound, unbounded. And this time we have to, next question, it's unbounded and we have to give an opposite to it. So unbound, control, unbounded, unrestricted, absolutely unrestricted. So answer becomes, this was pretty simple. Answer became our, this is here, bound, unbound, opposite. So if you can see again, the word becomes restricted because we're giving an opposite to the word not controlled, restricted. Fearful had nothing, aggression and imprisoned did not even relate to that line. Both the RCs we've discussed, and immediately now we start with the next part, and that's going to be a strong hold on our vocabulary part. We're beginning with our fill in the blanks. Now, the method to solve the fill in the blanks, I'll spend about 2-3 minutes explaining you the way you look at the fill in the blanks. The first thing that you need to do with fill in the blanks is always focus on the context of the paragraph, because the word, these are 3 tips. Word will come as per the usage and context. Like, for example, I like to take the previous word, asphyxiation, and also where we said something which is stifling or strangleholding. Now, perception word is the context. It will not be lack of oxygen. So word will come as per the context. Second clue we can always take with the tone of the word, whether we require a mild word or do we require a very strong word, which will be dependent on the sentence, how the sentence is the sentence using very strong words, or is it using negative, saying with a strong word or with a weak or a neutral word. That's the tone. Third thing comes whether the context of discussion is a very positive context or a negative, because if the context is positive, words following it will be context. The words will be positive words. If the context or connotation of the word is negative, we can easily, this is elimination tool. So let's all, and the third most important factor will be the conjunction, which will give us a clue that what kind of a word is going to be used in the blank. Can we have a look at the word although here? Clearly guiding me that the problem, this is going to give a contrast. Although he's recovering from his illness, he has to follow certain diet restrictions. He cannot eat junk food. Please do not pity him. And so clearly says do not pity him, because he won't be able to, he should not be eating the junk food. Can you see the word? Please do not pity him and give him some snack. Is that what we are asking? Cut him some slack. Please do not pity him and cut him some slack. Cut him some slack would mean give him some kind of leeway. Please do not pity him and give him some kind of a room. Allow someone. Be slack with his eating, that will go absolutely contrast to the although. Cut down the snacks is basically saying cut down the snacks is going to be too extreme because he's recovering. Although he's recovering, he has to follow certain. So cut down the snacks, we do not know what. So here, cut him some slack, give him some kind of some method to do so because he needs to control. Do not pity him. Do not pity him was the clue. Next one. Can we look at this? The problems may be difficult. Oh, wonderful conjunction. Can you see? Difficult, but all you have to do is as long as you can. The problem is difficult, but all you have to do is, that means it's going to be difficult, but all you have to do is as long as you can. The clue was also lying in the word as. That means keep doing it as long as you can. That's the context saying, though it's difficult, keep trying, keep trying. Now, which one? Hang in up there, hang on there. So if you can you see here? That means clearly we have to take a meaning, stay there. Stay there, be hopeful, keep trying. That's the hang on to that is basically, if you say hang on to that is basically saying just cling to it. But we were not saying cling to it. We said keep hopeful, keep trying. So answer should be, this is a phrasal hang on, hang in. So we have to decide between the two, hang in, hang on. Hang on to that means cling to it, but hang in would mean exactly what we want. Stay there, be hopeful, keep trying, hang in there, be there, hang in there. Hang on there means it can even mean I hang on with my friends. I go to party and I hang on there with my friends. So hanging up is wrong. Hang in there, be positive and be there, stay there. And that's the answer. Answer is D, Delhi. Okay, next question. Question 16. After all the alliances in arithmetic, the party is likely to a majority in the assembly election. See, now there are look at this. After all the alliances in arithmetic, the party is likely to. See, now, likely to. There can be two things. We look at options. Scrape together, scrape through, tape together, shape together. Now, can you see here? When we say scrape through is to wipe, so that won't be there. Scrape together is the phrasal verb that we need. Scrape together would mean it would be difficult to keep them together. After all the alliances in arithmetic, also it's likely going to be very difficult to keep them together. Shape together is not talking about likely to shape together, has no meaning. That means it will be after all the total arithmetic and alliances, yet will not be able to keep the party together. Scrape together would mean difficult to keep together. Scrape together a majority. Clearly, that means here scrape through, difficult times, pass through. Tape together has no meaning. They're taped together. So answer becomes scrape together, and answer was B, Bombay. Next question, the 17th one. Okay, just 1 minute. I will have to dash because I don't know how Sheila's parents are going to react to this offer. I will have to dash because I don't know how they're going to react. Count on my fingers is as if you're counting a number on your fingers. You can't count. I'm counting on my fingers how many days are left. Face the music would mean face the child. Face the music means face the challenge, or face the music is basically face a scolding. So that's break the ice would mean that I am able to make cordial relations with somebody, but that's not. So here, play it by ear. Play it by ear. This means you are going to do it. I'll take it as it comes. Play instinctively. Go by my instinct is play by. Go by my instinct. Because he cannot. Now you'll say, why not, ma'am, face the music? Because he doesn't know. Because I don't know. So that is why I'll have to go instinctively what will happen, I'll do that because I don't know how they're going to read it. Because if face the music, you know they're going to scold you. No. Count on my fingers was rubbish. Break the ice because we don't know what is the relation of this person. So he's going absolutely by the instinct or intuition and going by the instinct. To work by the instinct is play it by the ear, and that's the answer. Answer is D, Delhi. Okay, let's go further. Then next question, 18th question. If you had been more alert, this golden opportunity would not have. If you had been more alert, this golden would not have. That means he was not alert and probably he lost an opportunity, because that's what the question says. If you had been, there is a sense of caution here by saying if you were more alert, then this golden opportunity would not have gone from your hand. That's what the meaning should convey. Escaped your fingers? No, the rice slipped through your fingers, not escaped your. This is wrong. Escaped away is not a thief that's slipped through your fingers. Answer is that means clearly saying lose something. Lose something because effort was not. Lose something. It's like losing an opportunity because effort was not made. Because an effort was not made. So answer becomes D, Delhi. These are all phrasal verbs. People writing IPM exams, students, please do prepare some phrasal verbs. And we have provided you your purple books and the black book vocabulary books have a list of phrasal verb. Plus in the class, when we do the phrasal verb sheet, focus a lot. We picked up the phrases that are very frequently asked. So please be sure whatever sheet we have in the class where we're teaching, the faculty teaches you phrasal verb, learn for initially your target should be preparing those phrasal verbs properly, plus some idiomatic usage, because vocabulary questions can be antonyms, synonyms, or odd one outs and fill in the blanks, but equally there can be some questions of the phrasal verb also. Now we jump to the grammar portion. So let's all look at the grammar portion. The place where her father disappeared and the reason why. Now can you see this is an error of what we call as the word redundancy. Word redundant. Like if I say the reason and because. Reason and because. They're similar words. When I say reason and why, they are double usage. This is a word redundancy. So I don't need both of them together. For example, there might be word redundancy or there might be a preposition redundancy. For example, when I say comprising of, I don't need a of, reason being the word should be consist of. Comprising already means consist of, so we don't need the double usage of a word. So this why becomes redundant. It's there here, it's here. So these I'm going to overlook. Her father, now look at it. The place where her father, not the place her father disappeared, the place where her father disappeared. Answers P, Bombay. Where her father disappeared and the reason he did, not the reason why he did. So why, we are already saying reason that why has the same element. So that's why we remove the why. Okay, answer becomes B. Next question. Which team has the best record, yours or theirs? How many teams are there? Whenever you are having two, yours and theirs, there are mention of two teams. See, you have adjectives. Now adjectives of the whenever we have two, we're going to use a comparative degree of the adjective. See, let's say for example, if I say of the two movies, which is the best? No, which is the better? Of the two brothers, which is the better? Now we can't say the best, because if there are three, more than two, then we bring the superlative, and there's yours and theirs. So we can't use the word best. So this is gone. This is gone. Better, better, both A and B are already lost. So now we can decide which one to take. Which one team has the better record? Which team has the better record, not which one team. Why should I unnecessarily bring which one? So which team has the better record? Answer becomes D, Delhi. And this is with comparative two, we use the comparative degree. With one, we bring the positive degree of the adjective. And when we have more than two, we bring the superlative. If they were saying Three things or more than three, more than two, we are always using. Of the three movies, which is the best? Of the two, which is the better? So here the mention is about teams which are two teams only. Next question. Okay. After sensing a problem with the factory workers, the personnel officer demanded to know who the union. If you can see here, the subject is the personnel officer demanded to know. We cannot bring who because we need the object case of the pronoun here. And the object case is whom, not who. To understand this concept, I think, who are you? Subject is who. Who are you? This belongs to whom? This belongs to whom? The personnel officer demanded to know what? Object. Wanted to know whom the union leaders had contacted. So we need whom the union leaders had contacted. Have nahi. Have nahi. Because here, whom the union leaders had contacted, wanted to know. So demanded. So we need had contacted. Answer is A. Not have contacted. No present tense here. Okay, let's go further. Next one. After sensing a problem with the factory worker, okay, I'm so sorry, I brought the same question. His wrongdoing was completely exposed, but not once he apologized for his action. See, can you see here? After a but, there is a not. There is a not after a but. And here there is his wrongdoing was completely exposed. This is simple past. If you can just see the tense of this part, this is simple past. When simple past, and then next one he says not once he apologized. We after a not, whenever after a but there is a not, there's a rule that whenever there is a not, it should be followed by an auxiliary verb or a helping verb, followed by a helping verb or an auxiliary verb. So where is the auxiliary? If you can see, the auxiliary is these two. Not once did he give. You never give apology, you apologize. Never do you make an apology. They made an apology. You can even remove it by this also. If we know the usage, you never give an apology, you apologize. I apologize to somebody. I don't make an apology and I don't give an apology. So all three of them in usage were also wrong. Not once did he apologize. A. Clear? Next one. The municipal council can no longer wash its hands of its responsibility. Now here, first of all, the municipal council is more than one. So wash its hands of its responsibility. This is not one unit, it's a council of people, group of people can no longer wash its, and see now look, singular pronoun used for a plural noun, same thing here. So I don't need this it's and it's and it's. I need there and there. Now see. So if you can see here, wash their hands off. OF hand off, hands off. They cannot get rid of the responsibility. Cannot get rid of the. So wash their hands off their responsibility. A plural noun followed by a plural pronoun and a plural pronoun. A pronoun must match with the noun. So clearly answers B, Bombay. The letter states that one can avail the services offered by the company till June 20. Okay, so if you can see here, that one can avail of the services. You can avail of the services, of the service offered by. So avail the service on offer, or it can be avail the service. You can avail the service on offer, avail of the services, avail of the service. First of all, it's wrong. Offered by is wrong. Offered from is also the doer. By will always come when there is a doer. So here doer is avail the services on offer by the company, not avail of the services. Avail the services on offer. That means whatever services are on offer, you need to avail them by the company. So the usage says avail the services on offer. That means the company might be offering, giving some services on offer, and you avail them. From will not come, reason being from the company, by the company, by a doer, by a doer. By will come for a doer. English is taught by Mrs. Sharma. So by for the doer, never from the doer. So from was wrong here, this both go. And here this was wrong because avail of the services. Avail the services on offer. That's the right usage. Answer becomes B, Bombay. Next one. Where are your fill in the blank questions? Now, can you see the first line of the paragraph is missing? So practically, we can also take a clue from the following line so as to get that what can be there. Now we have to put an introduction to this paragraph. Can we see? We're going to read a part of it. Infrastructure in the form of paved surfaces. He talks about infrastructure, form of paved surfaces, disrupts water absorption. Very good. It disrupts water absorption and lowers water retention. This leads to disastrous levels of flooding, which diminishes the biodiversity and impoverishes the people of the region. Land should be used mindfully to prevent water logging during heavy rains. Okay, clearly, can you see what he's talking about? How infrastructure disrupts water absorption. So line preceding this should really be introducing something on what we call as how it disrupts something on the water absorption. Okay, now, can we put, first of all, let's look at D Delhi. Water retention is less important to prevent. Can we introduce this and say infrastructure in the form of disrupts water absorption? Water and less to prevent flooding. We're not preventing. We are not talking about that. And another thing, low rainfall would not prevent flooding. Can you see these two go? So both of them are absolutely wrong. Answer can be A and C. Now C becomes a trap. Infrastructure can actually cause a lot of trouble during flooding. Yes, it can be. But did you see if I have already introduced a noun, then I should say it. If I was talking about infrastructure, I cannot repeat the noun again. And secondly, infrastructure can actually cause, this is seemingly telling you that this is what the problem of infrastructure is leading to. There must be some generic line before it. And can you see? This goes because of the noun also, and also not because it's too specific to infrastructure. Climate change is not the only cause for flooding. And see, infrastructure in the form of paved surfaces can also cause less water absorption and cause flooding. We were not talking about prevent flooding. We were talking about how disastrous levels of flooding can happen because of climate change and infrastructure. Answer becomes is not the only cause, because furthermore causes are given by infrastructure. And that's where he says land should be used mindfully to prevent water logging. Water logging during heavy rains, not low rainfall. See here, heavy or low, not heavy or low, because that will not prevent. So answer becomes A. Next question. Can you see now in this paragraph, not the first line, but a middle line is missing. So a middle line which clearly says it has to take a clue what is the first part before the blank saying and how does he end the scope of the paragraph so that we can do a linkage. So I am looking at few words in this paragraph. Few look forward to old age and all that it brings in its wake. It talks about deteriorating health, loss of vigor, restricted mobility, all the challenges of old age. Not to mention a sense of foreboding and anxiety, yet one has to learn to cope. Look at how he talks as a positive onset. We need to cope. First line says, though these are the challenges of old age, yet we need to learn to cope with the onset of. Firstly, it's imperative to prepare to accept old age in spite of the restrictions or limitations. Equally important is the need to Adopt a positive attitude towards life. So can you see the first coping up with the challenges of old age? Then look at the next line starting by saying, above all, peace of mind is efficacious balm. So can you see is continuing in the same tone, the positive, the challenge, how we need to, above all, peace of mind. So it's continuing with how one can look attitude towards life is what he's ending. And we must resign ourselves to growing old, and in other process, let us try to make life as fulfilling and meaningful as possible. So, okay. Can you see? Oh, I'm reading B Bombay first. Owing to advances in medical science, we can now expect to live well beyond 90 years. Above all, peace of mind, it never talks about, can you see out of the box only? Because here he never talks about the medical science, he's talking about how we need to prepare ourselves with the growing challenges of old age. And we need to have an attitude towards life. So that was the part. This is absolutely not in the scope of the paragraph. Physical debility and stiffening body joints, creaking in protest may have mobility difficult. Something one should learn to take in one stride stoically. Tone of this is absolutely negative. While he said we need to cope up so that we can have a life, and see, above all, peace of mind is no linkage here. Stoically, and rather, he says as fulfilling and meaningful as possible. Equally important is to adopt a positive attitude. Never. He talks about stoical. The tone is slightly negative here. Turning nostalgic and recalling those old days when they were young and life was radically different from what it is today, help one accept. Clearly see here, clearly not talking about the turning nostalgic and recalling those good old days. The tone of this line also does not match with the attitude towards life. He says change, not accept, change. First imperative, prepare to accept old age. It's already given, so look at it. Answer should be A. The role of humor and fun are indispensable as these are the spice of life and guaranteed to bring cheer and bonhomie. Besides keeping one's mind off life's grim realities, attitude towards life, keep mind off the grim realities, above all, peace of mind. Never says what is today, help one accept old age. So answers A. Next question. The Arab Spring is widely believed to have stemmed from dissatisfaction, and so this has dissatisfaction with the rule of local government, though some speculated that the wide gaps in income levels have had a hand as well. Issues such as political corruption. Now this here, can you see the variety of question? Initially, they wanted us to write an intro, the first question, infrastructure. The second question, they wanted us to give the missing link. Finally, here is the last one. We're asking you to give the last line scope, probably giving a conclusion to the paragraph, like a completion. So can we look at the last line here? Issues such as political corruption, human rights violation, unemployment, and educated but dissets may have not have been responsible. May have been responsible. Now see here. Can you look at it again, right? Thus, youth unrest was the main reason. No, he's clearly saying this is absolutely may have been responsible as well, but not the main reason. So this is gone here. Gotcha. Now also, some also cite the 2009-10 Iranian election as one of the reasons behind the Arab Spring. So can you also see here? This is absolutely matching with the tone, one of the reasons. So this can be the answer. But let me also tell you why C and D. The Arab Spring was due to the wide gap between the, so look at it. It never says wide gaps in income levels may have had a hand as well. It's already repeated, speculated, and now you're saying was due to the. So it's absolutely a repetition. To sum up, was a series of anti-government protests. Anti-government protests, we don't know. Uprisings and armed rebellion across the Arab world, not mentioned. We can't write on ourselves, but this relates to the reason, one of the reasons behind the Arab Spring. So answers B, Bombay. Okay, and the tone becomes extremely strong here when he's talking about educated but dissatisfied issues such as political corruption, human rights violation. Not these are two extreme words by saying rebellion and anti-government protests. It's the first part was talking about dissatisfaction. Okay, I am moving further. Question 27. Oh. Fill in the blank questions now. One who is dash gets on with his job in spite of obstacles. So can you just see one who is dash will get on obstacles? So we can easily say the first blank is going to obviously going to take a word which has to be a positive word. Okay, hard-headed immediately is a negative connotation, so I can remove my D-Delhi. Assiduous and hardworking, wonderful, both of them mean the same here. Okay, mean the same. Now, I'm going to continue. I could eliminate by reading half. While the one who is dash hardly shows any progress. So that means that word has to, this is a positive word. This is a negative one. Hardly shows any. The latter spends, the latter means the one with the negative word, spends all his time about his trouble. You don't gossip about your trouble. You never. You always complain. People have this complaining attitude and you don't speak about your troubles. Either you discuss your troubles with somebody or you complain, keep complaining about them. So you never gossip about your troubles. You never speak about your troubles. And my answer's done. Can you see how wonderfully I could eliminate? This has gone here, this has gone here, and this has gone here. One who's hardworking, while the one who's dishonest. I am so sorry. No, I just minus this. Answers B Bombay. I put the tick at the wrong place. One who's hardworking, assiduous, but one who's fighting, querulous. He will not have any progress. The latter spends all his time complaining, whining, complaining. Clear? You do not speak about your troubles. You complain about your troubles. Okay, chalo, let's say next one. Ninth one. The dash of multiculturalism in time of war or economic dash tribalism. The dash of multiculturalism in times of war or economic tribalism is what causes those in power to confine groups of people with different into ghettos. Ghettos would mean like slums or in communes on the margins of the cities. Now, if you can just see here, in times of war, there is not going to, in times of war or economic, in times of war, will there be growth? Will there be prosperity? Can you see the second one? This goes. Easy elimination. Okay, now, the rise of multiculturalism in times of war or economic doldrums, yes, it can be. And also this can be the opposite of multiculturalism in times of war or economic distress is ethnicity, which is, answer should be D-Delhi. Why enormous? Why not? See, ethnicity is an ideology. Ethnicity into ghettos or in communes, clearly see the opposite of multiculturalism. In times of war or economic distress, tribalism is what causes those in power to confine groups of people into ethnicity. Then we confine them as per their own ideologies. That is what time opposite to multiculturalism, and answers D. Ideology is a viewpoint. That won't come. And you will not see when the rise of multiculturalism in times of war or economic, that also loses out. Answers is D. Next one. That the artist went about systematically to get traditional. And look at this now. Traditional dash and designs back into mainstream and dash a textile culture. So can we see here? Are we talking about, and look at it, designs back into the mainstream and described the textile culture, absolute wrong in usage. And you don't have get traditional stories that describe the text. You don't describe a textile culture. Textile culture cannot be described, and neither can it be processed. So my A and D are gone. So now it evolved a textile culture. Yes, it can, and it can also create a textile culture. But totems are spiritual. We're not talking about any spiritual. We're talking about traditionals. So motifs, patterns, because it's textiles. That the artistry went about systematically to get traditional motifs and designs back into mainstream and created a. She got a traditional motifs because our context is textile culture. Totems are spiritual motifs, so that we don't need. Okay, next one. In response to my friend's request, I decided to write her a letter, which I hope would be honest and practical, while also serving as a dash of sorts of my own feminist thinking. The book, look at this easy clue. This book is a dash of that letter with some details changed. So I'm going to see fallout of a letter. Book is never a fallout, and it can't be a précis. It can be this book is a form, and this can be a version. So now we are left with a version and form. The book is a form of a letter, or the book is a version because details have been changed. So it can be a version because details change. Answer A, easy elimination. And here comes the word, serving as a map of sorts. And fallout is a result of an adversary, yeah? Result of an adversary. So this is not a fallout. The book can't be a fallout of an adverse effect. Okay, quickly, quantum physics really begins to point to this discovery. It says that you cannot have a universe without mind into it, and that the mind is actually the very thing that is being dashed. Now, can you see her? The mind is, I'm going to take the clue from the mind is actually creating, making, shaping, forming. I'm going to take that is actually, first of all, it says that you can't have a universe without mind. You can't say the word penetrate. Mind can't penetrate into it. And neither can the mind intrude. These two are gone. This is entry by force, penetrate. Entry by force. Now the mind can't enter by force. And intrude is entry by privacy. So intrude bhi nahi aayega, these two are gone. You can have getting into it, or you can also have entering into it. That the mind is actually creating, and here, creating or forming. So creating and shaping. So mind is actually shaping the very thing that is being perceived, not acknowledged. Answer should be C, Calcutta. Now, difference between acknowledged and perceived. That's the difference we are understanding. Perceived is what is understood. It's perceived by me. That means as I understand. Acknowledge is accepted. Now see, look at it. Quantum physics, it says that you can't have a universe without mind getting into it, very good, or mind entering into it, both are right. And that the mind is actually shaping or creating the very thing that is, then it won't be that is being, then how is the mind creating if it is already accepted? So that goes shaping as it is perceived. Shaping as it is perceived, understood. So the mind shapes accordingly, not create. If it is already created, then why will I acknowledge it? So that's why also it goes wrong. Okay, these are some easy questions. I'll go very quick with them. The emperor ordered the arrest of his most vocal critic. Can you see this? This is basically talking about the homophonic usage, critic, critics, critique. Critic is somebody who puts a charge or blame on you, and critique is to analyze something. Now, in this question, if you can just see here, the first one, in the first question, C is wrong because Mahatma Gandhi's critic of the West, critique of the West, analysis of the West. Rest all is right. This one we require. This is right. ABD without an error. Mahatma Gandhi's critique of the West. That means analysis, examination. To assess, critique, this means to assess. Analysis, to assess. Remains relevant to this day, not his blame to the West, but his analysis of the West. Clear? So answer becomes C, Calcutta. Now, next one, we had the word team and team. All of us know group of people joining hands. This is full of. The garden is teeming with luxurious flowers, team full of. The river is teemed with salmon and trout, right? The wedding was teamed. No, this is wrong. The wedding wasn't teamed. It should be this team. Full with the Bhojpuri style. Full with, loaded with. Answer, this is wrong. This is the answer. Which team will win? Absolutely right. The film star wore a purple suit, teamed with a crimson. Teamed with a crimson, going along with it. Full of. So here, this B Bombay is the faulty one. Next one. Homophonic usage. Last week, we learned about the right way. Get it right. Driving on the right. Either right is a direction or doing something right, correct. That's there. Or we talk about the left and the right. Get it right. Is this right is to write something? No, get it right. Nahi. Get it right here, this one. This is the faulty one. Driving direction right and the right. This is a ritual. R-I-T. The last right. It's a ritual. So you know all the three words. B Bombay has the wrong usage. Get it right the first time. Okay, next one. Next one is raise. To raise somebody is to, we raise kids, raise an issue to bring up. The attackers decided to raise the castle. This is wrong. We need this. To demolish, to destroy. The word eraser, wipe off. We need this, so this is the faulty one. B, C, D, all without errors. They raise their children, right? They raise a toast and rays of the sun. Absolutely right. We need the fourth raise, which is to destroy. Answers A. Shakespeare is sometimes referred as a bard. This is a bard, is a poet. So this is okay. But there is this bard, restricted entry or barred from doing something. Because of his age, he was barred. That means not allowed. Restricted from entering the theater. The bar barred all the bards. That's okay. But this, he bared his soul, exposed, bared, exposed. Answer, this is wrong. B is wrong. Last three questions and we will be done then. Here we have the parajumbles now. This is about sequencing of the paragraphs, and see, for this I've posted another separate video for parajumbles where pair formation I've taught you. So here I'll be just discussing how to make a pair in just about quick time. Out of all this, as, this, and he, we can easily see our opening sentence suitable will be starting with the two. Two will be my first sentence. The hunter-gatherer went from place to place in search of food. Now, he just went in search and then harvested. No linkage. To and would. This was followed by an attempt to grow food. 4. And then attempt to grow food by scattering. Then he can harvest the widely. So 2, 4, 1, 3. The clue was follow what he did and what followed it. And after he grew food, then only he would harvest. So 2, 4, 1, 3. Next question. Okay, so here out of all the 4 lines, if you can see, people here are 1 injury away from starvation, 1 misspoken word from detainment or death. People here, where? So if it has mention of a name of a place, then probably that will be a better opening. So here easily we can link with starting it with 3 because it has the rural Kashmiri village. So 3 becomes the opening line. Life in a rural Kashmiri village seems idyllic to Shalini at first, as she befriending lovely people and admiring majestic natural scenery, especially in contrast to the cacophony of the urban Mumbai. Soon, however, Shalini, she notices the lack of access to medical care. 3-2. Okay, 3-2. And then if you can see adding on moreover, 4. No, not 4. I don't think 4 will come. It'll be 3-2. And then people here are one injury away from starvation, one misspoken word, and then it's a moreover the ever problems. 3-2-1-4. Last question. Now, in this, if we look at it, the study specific, a study is a better than the. So all the options that start with the study, we can easily see these are very specific lines. So probably first we need an intro for this. So the intro lies in the opening sentence will be, incredible as it may sound, we are told that democracy is not just good for the soul, it is good for the body too. Introduction to the topic. So 2 becomes the opening line. And immediately a study spanning 170 countries found a strong relation between healthy and most progressive forms of governments. 2 and 5 is a pair. And 1 is an example. The study published in the Lancet recently revealed that people living in democratic countries live longer than those who don't have 1. And then obviously, 2-5-1. 1 is an example followed by without pressure from voters or foreign aid. 2-5 was a pair and 5-1 was also continuing on the same note. See here. Incredible that democracy now told that democracy is not just good for the soul, is good for the body too. Then we talk about an example with a study. Go on to talk about the study was published, even road accidents, they have a less chance of dying from heart disease. And quickly we follow it by 3, without pressure from voters or foreign aid agencies. Dictators have less incentive. And we end the study suggests elections and the health of people are increasingly inseparable. Conclusion. 2-5-1-3-4. I think we've discussed all the 40 questions. Thank you, everyone. Now, in case if you are interested, these are some links that you can log on, and any doubts or any other further queries, I'll be more than happy. You can post them here. That's all for the day. Thank you so much.
Time वाला है on stream.